Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Allen, and I'm joined by my usual broadcast partner, former NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw. Played 11 seasons for the New York Rangers and Los Angeles Kings. This is the Laidlaw and Allen Report. We come to you twice a week to talk all things hockey, sometimes some cooking, sometimes some life. But
We've lost Kevin here for a little bit. He's frozen up on us. So we're just while Kevin's getting back on there. You're back now.
Yeah. Tom, let's go. Let's start with your Rangers because I really liked what they did, and we expected them to do made some quality moves, and they did that. They brought in three guys, but the unifying element, in my opinion, of those three players is they all project to be good, hard-nosed postseason players.
Yeah. Definitely. When you listen to Gerard Gallant talk about him too, he was very honest. He said, "Listen, I'll be honest with you. Would have been disappointed if we did not do anything at the trade deadline." And he talked openly about how much it was like a grit, the character. They could, they're multi-purpose players. I thought it was interesting too. The defenseman they got from Philly, his name is off.
Justin Braun, yeah.
So he's a right-handed shot, and they asked him at the press conference too, can he play left side? You could tell that was one of the concerns amongst the media, anyways. And he was very adamant in saying, "Yes, I can." He said, "Listen, I haven't done a lot of it, but that's not a problem at all." So I think it was important that they felt that he could play on both sides.
Yeah, it is interesting, but you and I've talked about this quite a bit. But it seems to me that coaches have decided that they like, like through the years, I guess from the experience they have, they just prefer to have left shots on left sides and right shots on right side. And
I know, and we discussed that too. Now the game has changed, obviously the rules. Like one of the reasons I liked playing on the offside of being a left-handed shot was when the winger's going down the boards, I could turn and hook him, get my stick in on him, and I couldn't do that on the other side, on the left-hand side. But now, obviously, with the rules, you can't do that now anyway. So there was certain advantages to playing on the offside that are now gone. I still think there are advantages, especially coming under your zone, because now if you're playing on the offside, you really open yourself up to the whole ice. You've got a better view of the ice and pass better. But I don't know.
I through the years I've heard coaches and players talk about like if you have all right or left hand shots on the power play, then you cheat hard to that side, so they're always making a backhand pass. But today's skill level is so high that most of those guys pass just as well from their backhand as they do on their forehand. It's the same thing. The idea of a right-hand center versus a left-hand center when your scorer is either on the right or the left wing, in theory it matters, but if the guy's great, the guy's great.
I don't think it would bother Wayne Gretzky whether he was a right-handed shot or left-handed.
No. Although when you were chasing him behind the net, you did like him to come out on his backhand side.
Oh yeah, I know. We always talked about that, but he'd make a perfect backhand.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it's really ridiculous. But what we saw on Monday was the equivalent of an arms race in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
Like every major contender did something that I would describe as big or significant or impactful.
Yeah,
everybody got better.
I'm surprised that it seemed like the level of interest in Max Domi too, and he ended up going to Carolina. I just wasn't the time. Maybe I haven't seen him play that much. I just saw him bounce around a lot recently, and thought, well, he mustn't be playing that well.
Well, it's almost as if the romance with Domi is more than the reality of it.
Yeah.
Because but he's had a couple of quality seasons, but he's had some not so quality seasons.
He does play with a little bite too, right? I mean, he's not afraid to fight. He plays hard.
Right.
I mean, that's the kind of, and you watch Carolina play, they've got a lot of that in them. I mean, they're a good, strong, fast team, but they've got some bite up, especially up front with their forwards. D'Angelo back on the fence will fight and play tough. So they're going to be a hard team to play against as well, Carolina.
Well, they did it again last night. Carolina knocked off Tampa Bay, we both have talked about Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
They know how to win. They know how to play in the postseason, but, there are teams now that can play with them.
Yeah. That could be some good hockey. Just to get out of the Eastern Conference, Florida and Tampa and Carolina and the Rangers. Yeah. The one team that surprised me what they did, it shouldn't be a surprise. Lou Lamoriello not just not trading anybody, but getting guys signed too, right?
Yeah. I didn't get it at all, but,
I think it's that loyalty thing that if you're part of Lou Lamoriello, like Parisi, for example, they were together in New Jersey. apparently when Parisi left to go back to Minnesota as a free agent, it was very like, it was almost like a father patting him on the back, like, okay, you understand why you've got to go mentality. I just think that's been Lou's way but yeah, in this case, man, they're getting older. I mean, I know they went to the semifinals twice 2 years before, but I mean, now they're a year older. I mean, I guess you figure, okay, we don't bring Chara back. There's room there for another free agent to sign.
Well, let me put it to you in this terms. If we started the 2021-22 season over right now, would the Islanders be among the worst teams in the league? And it was normal, so they didn't go on the road for 11 games.
They would not have. I had them as a team contending for a playoff spot.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I think that might have guided Lou is and the fan base would say, and maybe the media even, they'd say, yeah, but once they got into the regular meat part of it, they still weren't good. But
but I guess there's that they found a way to win, right? I mean, wasn't that Lou Lamoriello's style all the way. Right. Even in New Jersey, would you say they had the best lineup? Yes, they had Brodeur and Stevens and Niedermayer and those guys, but man, it was just also like the character. Like it seemed like there was more the Lou Lamoriello way was part of the reason why they won too. It wasn't just the players, but yeah,
right.
How about Vegas? Is it Dadonov or how do you pronounce that Russian's name?
Yeah, Dadonov. Yeah,
Dadonov. So did they try to pull a fast one there? So the thing is, they dealt him away to Phoenix, correct? To Phoenix?
No, Anaheim.
Anaheim. Sorry, that's right. To Anaheim. And apparently he had a list of teams. He had no trade clause, so he had a list of teams that he wouldn't go to. And Anaheim was on the list. And they're trying to say that they didn't know the list was out there.
Right. They're saying they never, but that's up to, if you talk to the general managers around the league, and they're not going to say anything public, although there's a lot of dislike for the Vegas Golden Knights. But most of them would say, the first thing you do when you get a new player on your thing is get that contract and you look at it. You look at it, your legal people look at it, and you find out where he's at, and then you take note of what his no trade status is.
But don't they still do that conference call with the league and the two teams?
Well, that's where it came up. But
I mean, when they acquired Dadonov, when Vegas acquired him, they would have done that because that contract with him, right? So they would have been informed of that clause in the contract at that time as well.
That's true, but the question is are people listening when they're doing those trade calls, or are they? Now, I don't know. I have no idea what they knew or what they didn't know, but it sure looks bad. Either way, the Vegas Golden Knights look disorganized.
They really do. And you think about it, George McPhee did such a great job. Again, I'm defending an old teammate here, obviously, a friend of mine, but he did such a fantastic job in Washington, putting that team together that ultimately won the cup after he was gone. And then he did such a great job, getting the expansion franchise in the position he did. And now McCrimmon comes in. And it seems like, it's not George anymore. It's McCrimmon that's messing it up. I just hear, and it's interesting because, I think we discussed this too. So McCrimmon came in. I don't think McCrimmon was George's guy. I think McCrimmon came in because of the owner. Because the owner, wasn't he getting advised by Murray Craven, the former?
Yeah, and I think that McCrimmon developed a relationship with Foley. Like, this is my impression, and I don't talk to him as much as anyone. I mean, I used to talk to George pretty regularly, and I haven't talked to McCrimmon, but at least not in a long time. But I think what happened is basically George didn't get squeezed out, but he could see the writing in terms of McCrimmon had a relationship with Foley. They were worried that McCrimmon was going to leave. I think even I think George appreciated McCrimmon's talents, and so they were worried that he was going to leave. So McPhee said, I'll move upstairs and have you still have a role if you're above McCrimmon, but I don't know. I don't feel like that he has the role that you would think he would have. I think it's pretty much a two-person show there with Foley and McCrimmon making most of the decisions.
Right, and now they've lost another 2 games and haven't scored a goal in 2 games. Now they get blanked by. As you would say, the Eichel stench is.
Permeating there.
I know. What's funny? I when we got off the show the other day with Eck, we did a show, Kevin and I, together at HockeyBuzz.com, And I realized that I can't even seem to put my finger on it exactly with Eichel, right? So when I explain it to people, I'm probably not doing a very good job of explaining why I just don't have faith in the player. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, regardless of what's happening there, I mean, they're in a dangerous situation.
Now they're out of a playoff spot today, as we said.
And Dallas had another big win yesterday. I really admire, and I've liked him for a long time. In full disclosure, Jim Nill, but I think he does a really good job there. And that team really isn't good enough, but he's got it competitive, and they made hard decisions about keeping Klingberg. They re-signed Pavelski, and they're in it. They're in it, and you gotta. All you need is one lottery ticket, and an invitation to the postseason party, and they're trying to get theirs.
They did it 2 years ago. Montreal did it last year. Yeah. So Vegas has got 66 games played. They got 72 points. Dallas has got 62 games played with 73 points. And right behind Vegas is Winnipeg with 2 fewer games. You got 64 games played, and they're 2 points behind Vegas. So
although Vegas does have one of the easiest schedules, not that it's helped them recently, but
right. See, that's the thing. You look at their record in the last 10; they're 3-7-0. They've lost 2, and when they don't score any goals, and they got Stone sitting out.
How many of those losses are you blaming on Eichel out of those 7 losses? So
it's a team game. It's just that I just feel like
you sound so disingenuous when you say that. So
but
it's a team game, but if one of your players is Eichel, So
I know. Okay, put it this way though. I guess it's happened in the past, but you've covered Pittsburgh a lot. So Mario Lemieux, Sidney Crosby, they have a long run of 2 star players there. Now, I'm not trying to say Eichel is in the category of those 2 guys, because those are 2 of the top 10 players maybe that ever played the game. But I mean, they always made a difference, right? I mean, they didn't let this kind of stuff happen. I guess they've had down years, or they've had down games where they don't score points, but I don't know. Before the whole thing where Stone has to come out of the lineup. Maybe he would have come out of the lineup anyways with the bad back injury he has. So now he's sitting out, not playing, and they're not scoring any goals. And that's a pretty talented player not playing.
Yeah, no, that's right. So, but I guess that will be when they're second guess, because Stone probably he was playing through this injury. And they thought, I think they thought this was going to be a win-win situation where it would solve their cap issue. But at least for now.
Well, they saw what happened in Tampa 2 years ago, right? Where Kucherov missed the whole year. They were able to then stay on the cap, have a good enough year, make the playoffs. He comes back. It's like you're adding an all-star player or maybe a Hall of Fame player to your lineup going to the plaplayoffs. So,
but that was the problem. They just assumed. And we know what happens when you assume. They assumed they would make the postseason. Now all of a sudden it's unraveling. I know. And it really is an elephant in the room that the Vegas Golden Knights are really disliked. I mean, people just don't like them.
And they went from being the darling of the league too. I mean, look at
and now people, and they've been a highly successful franchise, but people don't like the way that they do business, and I've heard GMs kind of complain about
this makes another assumption. You shouldn't assume. Let's say they don't make the playoffs. So George McPhee, Kelly McCrimmon, and the owner, Mr. Foley, are sitting in the room together after they don't make the playoffs. What's that conversation like?
Well, you can't point the finger at yourself, so I don't know.
But I mean, it's clearly this is McCrimmon's team now. He put this team together, or at least put the finishing touches on this team, and did all the things. I think, like the whole handling of the Marc-Andre Fleury thing, how popular he was in and outside the locker room, in the community.
Yeah. Well, what we don't know is how big a role Foley played. Like, if Foley pushed for this or that, and that, that's what caused the issue. If Foley was against, for example, putting Stone on the, what if Foley had said, we'd be better off if we trade Riley Smith, and what if McCrimmon said, we can't trade Riley Smith. He's just too important to the team. where would you be? We're not deep enough to sustain losing Riley Smith. So you don't know what was said there, but that, the fallout of this is going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Like, where do they go from here?
Well, that's the thing. The talent is not the issue. It's the way, to me, this is one of these rare cases where the GM went out and got good talent, but he did it in a way that ended up hurting his hockey team because he's.
Yeah, but you really liked the Stone and Pietrangelo move.
Oh yeah, totally. Love those players. Those players.
Well, those are the guys that are in charge. So
yeah.
But I know we sent them a letter, but I don't think they are paying any attention to our cease and desist. I think Stone and Pietrangelo still think they're in charge. So
right. So Stone can't really do much goal scoring when they lose 2 games shutout sitting up in the press box. And D'Angelo or Pietrangelo, it's really not his job to score points, although he can.
Yeah. He's not Superman. So
No, he's not.
So if he was Superman, what you're saying is Eichel is kryptonite. So
I honestly, God, I would really. It's one of these cases where I'm trying hard, somewhat hard, not to totally dislike the player. I just have this feeling that it's. Man, I guess the comments.
Well, I mean, you were down on Duchesne too, and Duchesne, is having a good season. And the results have been good. Speaking of the Predators, though, the Philip Forsberg, David Poile, going into the trade deadline day was really in a can't-win situation.
Yeah.
He had one of the most popular players in the franchise history. He has a franchise where making the playoffs is still very important. Like, we're not all that many years removed from the campaign to save the Predators.
Yeah.
Now, subsequent to that, we've had them, play at a high level, and now postseasons in Nashville are so much fun. Everyone's excited, but it's important that they're there every year. Like, it can't be one of those things where in Detroit, people yawned about the Red Wings made the playoffs, and then when they weren't there, all of a sudden they stopped taking it for granted. But so he had to get his team into playoffs. So but Forsberg needs a new contract. Forsberg wants to stay there, but he wants to be paid.
Yeah.
And I'm sure David Poile is gun shy over the contracts he gave Johansson, Duchesne, who really haven't worked out. Like, Duchesne has played well this season, but it's one season he's played well.
I agree.
Johansson,
and I like Johansson too, but the same thing. Yeah, you're right.
He's not lived up to his contract. He did give $9 million on a long-term deal to Yossi, and Yossi's been unbelievable. And recently he's been unbelievable. I
saw his numbers recently off the charts. Yeah,
it's just ridiculous how well he has played. But if he trades Philip Forsberg and got something for him because they couldn't reach an agreement, whatever it was, it wouldn't have been enough. Fans would have been outraged that he traded Forsberg. But he didn't trade him. But if he loses him this July, that isn't going to go over well either, because they would have gotten nothing for him, and he's so important.
So 2 players come to mind then: Steven Stamkos in Tampa and John Tavares when he was with the Islanders.
Yeah,
both the same situation. Both turned out differently. Ended up Stamkos obviously stayed in Tampa, and they lost Tavares for nothing to go to Toronto. Right? I guess the only thing. So, what do you think Forsberg's worth? What should he be making?
9. I think you got to give him $9 million.
$9 million. So that's $9 million. I guess if he loses him, that's $9 million off your cap, and you should go sign somebody else, right? At least you can sign another. I don't know who else is out there.
Yeah, that's the problem. I'm not sure there is. I mean, to me, the hallmark of Forsberg is his consistency. Yeah. Like, you look at him and he gets his goals every year, and some people will whine and say, well, he's streaky, but what goal scorer isn't streaky? They get. They get 8 goals in 12 games, and then they go 7 games without, and then they get 6 goals in 10 games. I
was really streaky. I went 120 games one time without scoring a goal. So
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. But to me, it is his consistency. And if I'm Philip Forsberg, and I'm looking, I'm saying to myself, I got to get more money than Johansson and Duchesne, because I've been getting it done every year while they haven't, and they've been earning $8 million, and I haven't been earning $8 million.
Very true. Yeah.
And I probably can't get more than Yossi because Yossi is the best, has been the best defenseman in the league, won the Norris Trophy. Look at the season he's having. He's incredible. He's our captain. He's well liked, everything. So, maybe I need to get right in. That's why I say $9 million. Like, to me, that seems like, to me, Poile and Forsberg know where the deal is.
Yeah.
But one of them can't get there, and it's not Forsberg. So,
Right. I guess there's always the possibility that David Poile said to him, he said, listen, okay, I need to make some other moves here to clear up space in the cap or whatever. I can't do the deal right now. We agree roughly what the number is going to be. Let's do it once the season's over with when I can do these other moves. Potentially, maybe that's what's going on. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. But, boy, I'd want him on the dotted line because, there's a risk there. And you brought up the, perfect example. We just assume Forsberg wants to come back. He has said he wants to come back. Yeah. He seems like that personality. Right. His wife apparently is in the entertainment business. So, okay. Nashville's a good place, but LA would be a good place too for that. So
New York would be a good place too, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, Philip Forsberg is. I just think he's too valuable, and I would be getting a poor quality sleep if I was David Poile.
You raised an interesting point. And I know Nashville is a big music city, but if his wife is in the entertainment business, I mean, be a good fit in New York, be a good fit in Los Angeles, right? Maybe they've got another destination in mind. That's what happened in Panarin, too. It wasn't his wife in entertainment business as well?
I don't know, but I know that he wanted to be in New York.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and people knew that, so... But I don't know. Forsberg to me seems like he fits in Nashville. He kind of likes the lifestyle, and maybe it's going to be fine. Yeah. David Poile wasn't born yesterday. In fact, he was making deals 50 years ago.
Totally.
So maybe he's got it all figured out, and we're worrying for nothing. Maybe we're the only people worrying about it. So
exactly, could be, yes.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting little comment here. It's obviously got my name attached to it. So can Tom teach Lindgren and Fox, two Ranger defensemen, how to play in front of your own net? It's been brutal for the last month or so. So there's one that with Braun, he's not a big guy though either that they got from Philly, right? He's not that.
No, but he's a tactical defenseman. Like he knows what needs to be done. So.
Right. But and in fairness to Lindgren and Fox have played some great hockey, and obviously Fox won the Norris Trophy last year, so he's a fantastic player, fantastic defenseman. Both smaller guys though, which is fine for Fox because his game isn't about muscling people out. But Lindgren, and I like Lindgren a lot. He's all heart. He comes, competes every night, sticks up for his teammates, but he's not that big of a guy. So the problem is like now the game is so much different the way it's refereed now too. So when we played, the front of the net was a war zone. They taught you that you could do and should do whatever you can do in front of the net to the opponent. But now it's just not like that. I mean, you can't cross-check as much. You can't punch guys in the back of the head like you used to be able to. So there's a lot of things you can't get away with that we got away with. So it's tougher for Lindgren to – like he's really got to try to box them out before they get there. But again, he's playing against some big men, and he's not that big of a guy. And again, I want to be careful because I like him a lot. He competes hard. And he and Fox have played some great hockey in the past, but – That's the one area I just wonder, like, especially you get into the long playoff runs. If you're playing against Carolina's forwards, Tampa's forwards, Florida's forwards, some big players out there. So,
although there's been some small defensemen who have really gotten it done, like Brian Rafalski. Comes to mind. Like, and his best defensive play though is now illegal. But you remember how he used to squeeze people along the boards. Yeah. Like they'd come over the line and he'd get that hip out, and next thing you know, they'd be, smushed against the boards.
And Lidstrom, although he was bigger, he really didn't play a big man's game. He played a smaller man's game, just so angles and smarts and everything. So
and sticks. Like the thing about Lidstrom that I think was you really. I remember actually it was Tambellini. Had a great quote about Lidstrom, and he said, "For everyone who plays racquetball, if you play regularly, you come across it's usually an older guy who ends up standing in the middle of the racquetball court and plays every shot, and you're running around everywhere, and he's just standing at the same spot all the time because you're always on the defensive. And then when you're done, you think, what the hell just happened to me?"
Yeah.
And that he said that's what it is with Lidstrom.
Yeah,
is that you're coming over the line. The next thing you know, there are sticks and arms and things, and 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 you're trying to get by, and suddenly you lose the puck, and you just go, "What the hell just happened?"
Yeah, because he doesn't intimidate people. You're not afraid.
No, you don't. You're not even really sure. You've been killed, and you're not sure how you died.
That's very. He had this thing. Now he couldn't do it today, but he had this thing too, where he would get his stick out and he'd put the blade of his stick right on opposition's hand. So he's reaching out and pushing on their hands so they can't lead. So just like you're saying, there's nothing the guy can do because he had them all tied up. So.
Well, people said when the new rules came in, and I remember this specifically, that's the end of Nick Lidstrom, because his level of cheating was at a master's degree level. He knew how to cheat. He was really good at tying you up and not allowing you to do anything, but he just adjusted. He did what was allowed, and he found other ways to tie you up, and he knew how far he could go. He knew what a penalty was, and you got to do what you got to do. So
what team? I guess we talk about the Islanders. Is there another team out there that surprised you with what they did not do? How about Vancouver? They didn't do much.
No, they didn't. But I really never expected them to. Like, I really felt, Jim Rutherford, and I know it's not him, it's Albin, but he's part of it. It's the two-headed monster, and Albin was his guy in Pittsburgh, and I knew, or I suspected, that all that rumors and stuff about who they were going to move, they were just testing the market. Right. They were just trying to figure out what would get them the most assets, and they'll do their dealing this summer. Right. Because Jim Rutherford could read the marketplace, and he knew that there was going to be an arms race in the East. Like, he had to know, and that those teams, they weren't looking to make hockey trades. They were looking to not take players off their roster, and he wants players off teams' rosters when he moves his players.
Right, so. And he's got to move players to get under that cap too, right? Because he's got to get Besser on those guys. Right. Yeah. So do you think he'll move Miller at some point?
Well, I wouldn't. I think that's like moving Ryan O'Reilly. I think that would be a bad decision. Miller is, reached his level. He's a good player. He knows how to play this game. He's very valuable. He can do a lot of different things. Yeah. There are a lot of teams looking for a center.
Big guy too. Big guy can skate. Yeah. How about Buffalo? They didn't do much, did they?
No, they didn't have a lot though. I mean, and I thought that Kevin Adams' quote was kind of weird. He just said we didn't like the offers. Well, if you got a potential UFA, there is no offer that you don't like. You just take the best offer you can get. So
yeah, I kind of wonder about him still. And again, I saw a couple of interviews. He's a former player, so we all hope he does well. But his inexperience to me is really showing, right? And it doesn't seem like he's got somebody around him to kind of guide him.
Yeah, although he's made some decent trades. Yeah. He made a couple. I didn't think he got enough for Sam Reinhart, but I thought he did good on the Ristolainen trade. He hired the right coach in Donnie Granato. Yep. He's gotten under his command. I don't know if he had anything to do with it, but under his command, Skinner's gotten better. Yep. So.
How about what's going to happen to Philly? I mean, I hate to pick on Chuck Fletcher here, but
I'm with you on that. I mean, I'll climb on. We'll pile on together. I don't think he's done a good job there. No. Like it turned out I was wrong too. I thought he made the right moves when he overhauled his defense. Yep. I thought even the Keith Yandle deal for $1 million, 6 defensemen, 15 minutes a game. Yep. How could you go wrong? Yep. Well, Yandle just really didn't have it whatsoever for 15 minutes or whatever minutes he played.
Yeah, I know. Now you're stuck with the guy that's got that games played streak going on.
Yeah, and then you got to play him, and you can't really give him away because the other teams don't want to deal with it. Yeah, I know. And you're in a bad spot. And then the biggest thing, though, is Ryan Ellis got hurt. If he doesn't get hurt, that deal looks a lot better. Ristolainen got hurt. Right. Now they've re-signed him. So, ultimately maybe that deal will work out. But Ellis getting hurt really hurt 2 players, because I think one of the reasons they brought him over is they wanted Ellis to do for Provorov what he did for Yossi. And by doing something for him, meaning taking care of business on the other side of the defense to allow their guy in Philly, the case Provorov, to explore the depths of his talent, like Yossi was able to explore his talent in Nashville.
Yeah, I agree. So, all right. So that means then, but it seems like the Chuck Fletcher, and I think you brought this up the other day when he first got there, he kind of blamed everything on Hextall,
Yeah.
manager. And so Bobby Clark, about to go went public doing that as well. So is that the narrative there now that
well, Bobby's always been a loyal team guy, as you know, and so he's defending his own. But I don't know how you can go after Hextall. One of the things that Chuck Fletcher said when he got the job is the cupboard is not bare thanks to Axie. So they had some good younger players and they had drafted well. And
I didn't like his choice of coaches to start with either. Vigneault. If you've watched the Rangers play the last couple of years before he got moved on, and they turned really into a team that just didn't compete very hard. So,
well, I watched them last night. It was the battle of the number 24 team in the league versus the number 28 team in the league. It was a clash of the Titans, not last night. And the thing that struck me about the Flyers and looking at their statistics is they haven't won a game on the road since January 1st.
I did.
They're like 0-11-2 or something.
That's a bad sign. That's a real sign of a non-competitive team, right?
Yeah, those days are over. The days of not being able to win on the road. Kevin Hayes has played better. I thought he looked pretty good last night. And it didn't seem like it was Carter Hart's fault. There was just too many breakdowns. Guys had a lot more space last night.
They're one of those teams that really lost what their culture is, right? It's just that it's certainly, and you can't expect it to be. It certainly is the old Broad Street Bullies. But
no, I'm not even sure they know what their culture is there.
I agree.
It's like, they're not even. And now with Giroux gone, that's going to change everything. There will be a new leader emerged there, and so we'll have to see kind of what that looks like. But they're in cap hell.
Are they tough? Oh.
Yeah, they're in bad shape. If you look, they've got to try to figure out some way to get rid of Van Riemsdyk's contract or trade Konechny. But I don't know how they're thinking they could afford the re-signing of Ristolainen. They did it, but it's going to be difficult. That puts them even farther behind the eight ball. But you got to try to compete as well. So they're going to end up with a bunch of $1 million players unless they can find a way to move. As I said, Van Riemsdyk or maybe Konechny, something like that. But I would assume since they've hired Danny Briere as Chuck Fletcher's advisor that he is already safe. But
that was kind of. I guess Briere didn't have any experience, did he? Was he in management at all?
No, but I think he was wasn't he in a similar capacity in Montreal? I'm not sure.
Okay.
But he's always kind of wanted to be involved. The guys in the media, we all know him as a guy that can talk.
Yeah.
He's always been a little more mature than his age. So
I went to Washington Capitals. They didn't do much either, right?
No, but sometimes when you're in the media, you should just take people at their word. Brian McClellan said 2 weeks before, I've looked at my team and I'm just not sure that we're at a place where that we would benefit with me making moves. And so he said, I'm not likely to do a lot. And he didn't. I think he did poke around the goalie market, but then the goalie market was really non-existent.
Yeah, really. I know.
So, I don't think there were good options there for him.
So who of all the goalies out there, who's the best goalie available? I mean, Marc-Andre Fleury now, I guess, would be the best, but he's not really available now, right? But I mean,
although I have a theory about that. I don't think Marc-Andre Fleury is done.
Yeah, you said that before, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I just think he's, we're going to see him next year. He still looks quick and doesn't look like he's slowed down. And, you put him with the right team. like I don't think you can judge him by his Chicago save percentage.
Right. So they go on a little run there in Minnesota. He plays well. Maybe just resigns there, right?
Maybe. Yeah.
So then I guess where I'm going with this then is Georgiev, the backup, who appears to be the backup goaltender with the Rangers now. Because if and again, one game he played against Carolina is fantastic, but he's had other good games. And I think he's shown that he's a pretty good goaltender as well, a pretty young goaltender too. So he may be the guy that I think, again, and we did another show with some other guys and they brought up an interesting point. They Rangers have to be careful when they trade him because Shesterkin's had some injury problems. But if he can stay healthy, I mean, the part of the trick is going to be to play Georgiev enough to show other teams how good he can be. And then you can be able to get some pretty good return for him.
Yeah, although I did some digging a little bit, and I've been told he's not available, that the Rangers are not interested in.
Wow.
But,
they got to be at some point, though. Right? I mean, 3 years, not 2-3 years. Not, yeah, but maybe not this summer. Yeah.
Yeah. So, because you need to. What happened last night with the Rangers
at night, all three of the new players were in. I don't know if that was the deal where the new guys were there. They didn't get the goaltender they normally got. Shesterkin was not the hero that he usually is. New Jersey's a pretty good team. Like they're a young, good offensive team. So if you're not playing your best hockey, what happened last night can happen to them.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Not a pretty night.
Well, anyway, we have gone on. Any cooking notes to add this?
Jeez. No, I did a lot of meal prep. I've gotten into, I got to be a little careful with this too. I've making more chicken in my chicken salad. I've started putting jalapeno. Is it jalapeno or jalapeno? Jalapeno into my chicken salad. I use avocado mayonnaise, and I try to go not too much with that. So I had one of my problems I've been having with my chicken was always coming out dry. So I did some research, and the best way I am told to do it, and it seems like it's worked for me now, is to sear it on both sides for about 90 seconds, a real hot pan with oil, and then put it in the oven to cook it the rest of the way. I guess it sears in the juices to make it more juicy. So
why don't you just air fry that bad boy?
Well, it comes out dry for some reason.
It does, eh?
At least mine has. Yeah, I know. So this seems to work. We've solved the problem.
Well, anyway, we appreciate everyone tuning in. We'll be back again next week. There's still a quarter of the season still to be played. We got more Jack Eichel beating to do. We've got to see whether the Golden Knights are going to get in the playoffs. Pretty good races in the West,
I know,
to be sure. And there'll be some shuffling here in the East. Like, I think it's important when you have to face the Tampa Bay Lightning or the Florida Panthers.
We'll see if Vegas can even score a goal here in the next little while.
Yeah. So anyway, but if you want to read me, I'm at DetroitHockeyNow.com and HockeyBuzz.com.
And again, if you want to listen to the radio version of this show, you can go to radio.co at 365 Sports. Everybody have a good weekend. We'll see you next week.